The galaxy was old. It had seen countless wars, powerful empires, and the rise and fall of many species. Some races were known for strength, others for intelligence. A few were feared by all. But humans? Humans were not taken seriously. In the Grand Galactic Council, where leaders of many species gathered, humans were often ignored. They were new, they were emotional, and most importantly, they avoided war. Again and again, humans chose peace. Even when attacked, they did not strike back quickly. They asked questions. They tried to talk. They believed problems could be solved without destruction. Many species saw this as kindness. Others saw it as weakness. One of those species was the Zerath Dominion. The Zerath were strong, cold, and proud. Their empire stretched across many systems. They believed in power above all else. To them, peace was just another word for fear, and humans looked very afraid. "They will never fight," one Zerath commander once said. "They don't have the will." That belief became a decision. The Zerath decided to test humanity. At first, the attacks were small. A human cargo ship disappeared near the edge of known space. There were no survivors, no signals, nothing left behind. Humans reported the loss. They sent a message to the council. "We request an investigation." Their tone was calm, controlled, respectful. The council agreed to look into it, but no one rushed. Ships go missing sometimes. It happens. Then it happened again. Another ship, another disappearance. This time, there were traces of weapons, signs of an attack. Still, humans did not respond with anger. They sent another message. "We seek dialogue. If any species is responsible, we ask for communication." Some council members even laughed. "Still asking for peace," one said. "They really are harmless," said another. The Zerath watched all of this, and they smiled. Weeks passed, then months. The attacks grew bolder. Human trade routes were disturbed. Small outposts lost contact. Supplies stopped reaching distant colonies. Still, humanity did not declare war. They increased patrols. They protected their borders, but they did not strike back. They were waiting, watching, hoping the situation would calm down. But the Zerath had no intention of stopping. To them, this was proof humans were weak. Then came the moment that changed everything. A human colony world, known as Eden 7, went silent. Eden 7 was not a military base. It was not heavily defended. It was a peaceful colony full of families, workers, and children. One day, all communication stopped. No distress signal, no warning, nothing. At first, the council thought it was a system failure, but when a nearby ship went to investigate, it never returned. Now there was fear. The council called an emergency meeting. Leaders from many species gathered. Screens lit up across the chamber. Voices filled the air. "What is happening?" one demanded. "Is this a new threat?" asked another. Then the human representative appeared. She stood quietly, her face calm but different. There was something in her eyes, something heavy. "Eden 7 has been destroyed," she said. The room went silent. "Destroyed," someone whispered. "Yes," she replied. "There are no survivors." Shock spread across the chamber. Even those who once laughed at humans felt uneasy. "Do you know who did this?" asked a council elder. The human paused for a moment. "Yes," she said. The name was not spoken out loud, but everyone already knew. The Zerath Dominion. All eyes turned toward the Zerath representative. He did not deny it. Instead, he smiled. "It was a necessary action," he said coldly. "Expansion requires sacrifice." Anger filled the room. Voices rose. Some demanded punishment. Others called for caution. Then all attention returned to the human. Everyone expected shouting, threats, rage, but none came. The human representative simply nodded. "We understand," she said quietly. Those words confused everyone. That was it? No anger? No demand for justice? Just understanding? The meeting ended in chaos. The council argued. Some wanted to act. Others feared war. But humanity said nothing more. No threats, no warnings, no announcements, just silence. Days passed, then something strange began to happen. Across human space, fleets started moving. Not loudly, not openly, quietly. Ships left their stations. Patrol routes changed. Military bases became active. But there were no public messages, no broadcasts, no speeches. Other species began to notice. "Why are human fleets mobilizing?" one asked. They haven't declared war, another said. It could just be defense, someone suggested. But deep down, many felt something was wrong. This was not normal. Even the Zerath noticed. But they were not worried. Let them move, their leader said. They will not act. They are too soft. They always choose peace. And for a moment, it seemed like they were right, because humanity still said nothing. No communication, no reaction, just silence. But this silence was not empty. It was heavy. It spread across the galaxy like a shadow. Even the oldest species began to feel it. The Eldari, one of the most ancient races, watched carefully. They had seen many wars. They had seen many species rise in anger. And they had seen what happens when a peaceful species finally breaks. This is not peace, one Eldari elder said softly. This is something else. What do you mean? A younger one asked. The elder looked toward human space. They are not calming down, he said. They are deciding. Back on Earth, deep inside a command center, human leaders stood together. There were no loud arguments, no panic, only quiet voices, clear decisions. A single image stood in the center of the room. Eden 7, a world that no longer existed. One leader finally spoke. Attempts at peace have failed. Another nodded. Communication has failed. A third voice, calm but firm, said, then we proceed. There was no cheering, no anger, just agreement. Orders were sent. Across space, human fleets received the same message. Short, simple, clear. And for the first time since joining the galaxy, humanity stopped asking and started acting. Far away, the Zerath Dominion still celebrated their victory. They believed they had proven their strength. They believed humanity would accept this loss. They believed nothing would change. They were wrong, because in that quiet moment, something inside humanity had shifted, not into chaos, not into blind rage, but into something far more dangerous. Controlled fury, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming next. The galaxy felt different. No one could explain it clearly, but something had changed. Human space was quiet, too quiet. There were no messages, no broadcasts, no requests for help. Trade slowed down. Communication channels became empty. It was not normal. Humans were always talking before, always negotiating, always trying to fix problems. Now, they said nothing. But their ships were moving. Across many systems, human fleets began to gather, not in one place, but everywhere, small groups at first, then larger ones, then entire fleets forming in silence. Their ships looked different now. Before, human ships had bright markings, clear symbols, and open signals. They showed who they were. Now their ships were darker, cold, silent. Even their signals were reduced, harder to track, harder to read. Other species started watching closely. What are they doing? One council member asked. Preparing defense, another replied, unsure. But deep down many felt the truth. This was not defense. This was preparation. Inside those ships, humans were not shouting. They were not angry in the way others expected. They were focused. Every soldier, every pilot, every commander had one clear goal. No mistakes, no hesitation, no mercy for threats. For the first time, humanity was not trying to avoid war. They were preparing to finish one. Far away, in the territory of the Zerath Dominion, things were very different. They were celebrating. Music echoed through their massive cities. Their leaders spoke proudly of their strength. The destruction of Eden 7 was seen as a victory. A message has been sent, their ruler said. Let all species understand what happens when they stand in our way. Their commanders agreed. The humans will do nothing, one said. They have already accepted it. Another laughed. They asked for peace even after we attacked them. They are weak. No one in the Zerath leadership showed concern. To them, this was just another conquest. But not everyone in the galaxy believed that. In a distant system, the Eldari watched in silence. Their ships stayed far from human space. They did not interfere. They only observed. One young Eldari asked their elder, "Why are we watching humans so closely?" The elder answered slowly, "Because they are changing. They lost a colony. Many species have lost worlds before." "Yes," the elder said, "but not like this." "What is different?" The elder paused, then spoke. "They are not reacting." The young one looked confused. "Isn't that normal for them? They always choose peace." The elder shook his head. "No, this is not peace." "Then what is it?" The elder looked toward the distant stars where human fleets moved quietly. This is control before release. The young Eldari did not fully understand, but he felt something heavy. Back at the Galactic Council, tension was rising. Meetings became longer. Voices became louder. "We must act," one leader said. "The Zerath have gone too far. And start a war," another replied. "Are you ready for that? If we do nothing, more worlds will fall. And if we act without planning, we all fall." Arguments continued, but one question stayed in every mind. What will humanity do? Finally, the Council sent a message to Earth. It was simple. "What are your intentions?" The message was delivered, and for a long time, there was no reply. Hours passed. Then a response came. Short, cold, clear. "We are handling it." That was all. No details. No request for help. No explanation. The Council was stunned. "What does that mean?" someone asked. "They are acting alone," another said. "That is dangerous," a third whispered. But the Eldari elder, who was present in the meeting, spoke quietly. "No," he said. "It is not dangerous. It is final." Inside human command centers, everything was ready. Large screens showed maps of the galaxy. Red marks highlighted Zerath systems. Blue signals showed human fleets moving into position. Every movement was planned. Every target was chosen. There was no rush, no panic, just quiet preparation. A young officer looked at the map and asked, "Why are we waiting?" A senior commander answered calmly, "Because timing matters. We strike once," he continued, "and we strike correctly." The young officer nodded. He understood. This was not about anger. This was about ending the threat completely. Across human fleets, soldiers prepared. Weapons were checked, systems tested, routes confirmed, but there was no shouting, no fear, only silence. One soldier looked at the stars through a small window. "Eden 7, he whispered. Another soldier beside him said, "We remember." That was enough. No long speeches were needed. Everyone already knew why they were here. In Zerath space, small warnings began to appear. A supply station suddenly went offline. A communication relay stopped responding. A patrol fleet disappeared without a trace. At first, they ignored it. "Technical problems," they said. But then more reports came. More losses. More silence. Something was happening. Zerath commanders started to worry. "What is causing this?" "No enemy has been detected," one officer reported. "That is not possible," the commander replied. But it was happening, quietly, carefully. Something was moving through their systems, something they could not see. Back on Earth, the final command was prepared. All fleets were in position. All targets were locked. The room was silent. One leader looked around. "Are we ready?" "Yes," came the answer from every side. Another voice spoke. "No mistakes." "Understood." Then the final order was given. Not loud, not dramatic, just simple. "Begin." Across the galaxy, human ships moved at the same time. No warning, no announcement, no hesitation. The calm was over, and the storm had begun. The first blow came without sound. In the outer systems of the Zerath Dominion, space looked calm. Patrol ships moved on their usual paths. Cargo vessels carried fuel, weapons, and food from one military station to another. Defense platforms floated near gates and trade lanes. Everything looked normal. Then, in one single moment, that normal life ended. A Zerath relay station above the moon of Kareth went dark. No warning, no distress call. Its signal simply vanished. A nearby patrol ship turned to investigate. It found the station broken open, its power core dead, and every weapon system cut apart with perfect precision. No wild destruction, no wasted shots. The station had been removed like a blade cutting clean through cloth. The patrol ship tried to report what it found. Its message never reached command. A human stealth frigate hidden in the dark behind the moon fired once. The Zerath ship disappeared in white light. In another system, a fuel depot exploded. Then, a military dockyard. Then, a sensor array. Again and again, the attacks happened with exact timing. Human ships came out of silence, struck key targets, and vanished before the Zerath could understand what they were facing. At first, Zerath commanders believed it was sabotage, then piracy, then internal rebellion. They could not accept the truth. Humanity had entered their space, and humanity knew exactly where to strike. In the command hall of the Dominion, alarms began to ring from every direction. Supply Station Narrow is gone. Defense Grid 12 is not responding. 3 patrol groups have disappeared. The Zerath ruler rose from his throne, anger filling his sharp face. How? He demanded. How is this happening? No one had a good answer. A nervous officer stepped forward. We believe human forces are involved. The room fell silent. Then laughter broke out from several commanders. Impossible. Humans do not strike like this. They are emotional creatures. If they attacked, it would be loud and foolish. But the officer did not laugh. He looked at the data in his hands and spoke carefully. They are not attacking our strongest worlds first. Then where are they attacking? The ruler asked. The officer swallowed. Our transport lines, field chains, communication hubs, repair stations. Another silence followed. Now the laughter stopped. One older commander leaned forward. They are cutting our legs before attacking the body. The ruler's eyes narrowed. For the first time, a small piece of fear entered the room. Far from the Dominion capital, human fleets moved like shadows. They did not charge in large formations yet. They broke into smaller strike groups. Destroyers, frigates, stealth carriers, and electronic warfare ships slipped through weak points in Zerath territory. Every target had a purpose. Every strike opened the way for the next one. A human captain named Elias Rains stood on the bridge of the cruiser Resolute Dawn. He was not a loud man. He did not shout orders. He watched the battle map with calm eyes while his crew worked around him. Target lock confirmed, one officer said. Enemy relay tower in range. Fire, Captain Rain replied. A narrow beam of light crossed the dark. The tower vanished. Next target, shipyard support ring, light defense. Proceed. Shipyard support ring, light defense. Proceed. The crew moved quickly, but not wildly. They had trained for years. Not for revenge. Not for rage. For this exact kind of war. Clean, fast, final. On one lower deck, a young technician whispered to another, I thought war would feel louder. The older crewman answered, the loud part comes later. The young man looked uneasy. Then what is this? The older crewman kept his eyes on the screen. This is humanity making sure the enemy cannot stand. Across the galaxy, the Council watched the reports with growing horror. The attacks were spreading faster than expected. Humanity had not sent a declaration of war. They had not made a speech. They had simply begun. Council representatives gathered again in emergency session. Screens showed burning stations, dark systems, and disappearing Zerath fleets. One delegate spoke in disbelief. They have hit 42 strategic targets in less than a day. Another added, and not one civilian world. That detail changed the room. Humans were not lashing out blindly. They were choosing military targets only. One council member whispered, they planned all of this. The Eldari elder gave a slow nod. Yes, he said. For the first time, you are seeing human war without restraint. The younger races stared at him. What does that mean? One asked. The elder's voice remained calm. It means they have stopped trying to be understood. The first major fleet battle began near the industrial world of Verex. The Zerath, finally understanding the danger, gathered 2 heavy battle groups to protect the orbital factories there. Hundreds of ships formed lines around the planet. Massive cannons charged. Fighter swarms waited in launch bays. When human scouts detected the buildup, the Zerath commanders smiled. Good, one said. Now they will face real strength. A few minutes later, human ships appeared, but not where expected. They dropped from warp above and below the Zerath formation, using the planet's magnetic field to hide their approach until the final moment. Jamming ships flooded local space with false signals. Zerath screens filled with ghosts. Target confusion, unable to confirm enemy positions. Port batteries offline. Before the Zerath could recover, human torpedoes hit the defense line at 3 weak points. Not the center, not the largest ships, the weak points. The formation bent, then broke. Captain Rain's voice remained steady on the fleet channel. Phase 2. Separate their command ships. Human cruisers moved like knives. They drove between Zerath groups and shattered coordination. A carrier launched drones that blinded targeting systems. A destroyer rammed through a weapons screen and unleashed kinetic fire at point-blank range. Within minutes, the battle had changed. The Zerath still had more ships, but they were no longer fighting as one fleet. They were fighting as frightened pieces. A Zerath admiral roared orders from his flagship. Regroup. Regroup now. A human strike team boarded his vessel before the command could be completed. The bridge doors exploded inward. A short, brutal fight followed. Then the flagship went silent. When the remaining Zerath ships saw their command vessel drifting powerless, panic spread. Some ran. Some fired wildly. Some surrendered. Human ships did not chase those that fled beyond the battle zone. They stayed on mission. Factories destroyed. Military docks disabled. War production ended. The message was clear. Humanity was not here for glory. Humanity was here to remove the Dominion's ability to continue. By the second day, the Zerath people began to understand that something was deeply wrong. Military channels were overloaded. Supplies stopped arriving. Commanders who once spoke with arrogance now shouted with fear. Planetary governors demanded answers they did not receive. On one military world, workers watched as wounded ships limped into orbit, burning and broken. A dock officer stared at the damage and asked a surviving Zerath pilot, "Who did this?" The pilot, his armor blackened and cracked, answered in a shaking voice, "Humans." The workers around him fell quiet. One of them said, almost laughing from disbelief, "Humans did this to a full battle group?" The pilot looked at the sky, where more damaged ships were arriving. "No," he said, "they did this to all of us." Back at the Dominion capital, the ruler demanded a counterattack. "Strike Earth," he ordered. "Break their spirit. Show the galaxy they can bleed." Some commanders hesitated. Their supply lines were damaged. Their fleets were scattered. A direct strike on Earth would be risky now. But fear and pride pushed the decision forward. A counteroffensive began. Meanwhile, inside the human fleet, the news reached Captain Rain. "The Zerath are mobilizing toward core human systems." He studied the display for a moment. "Expected," he said. One officer asked, "Do we pursue?" Rain shook his head. "No, let them come." The officer frowned. "Sir?" Captain Rain's face did not change. The first strike was never the main lesson. He turned back to the stars. It was the warning. In the council chamber, that same understanding slowly took shape. Humanity's first attacks had already shocked the galaxy. Entire military regions of the Dominion were collapsing. And yet, the worst had not even begun. Because now, the Zerath had made the next choice. They were going to Earth, and every old species in the galaxy knew what that meant. Not victory, not hope, a mistake, a final one. As damaged stations burned and dead fleets drifted in silence, one truth spread from system to system. Humans had not entered the war with anger alone. They had entered it with memory, discipline, and purpose. And that made them far more terrifying than anyone had imagined. The galaxy had finally seen the first strike. Soon, it would see humanity's fury. The Zerath Dominion had made its choice. They would strike Earth. To them, it was the only way to stop what was happening. Their outer systems were falling. Their fleets were breaking apart. Their commanders were losing control. But if they could hit the human homeworld, if they could break humanity's spirit, then everything could still be saved. At least, that is what they believed. The Zerath gathered what remained of their strongest fleets. Massive warships, heavy carriers, and long-range destroyers came together in one final force. It was not as organized as before, but it was still powerful. Thousands of ships, weapons charged, orders clear. Destroy Earth. As the fleet moved toward human space, fear followed them. Not inside the Zerath ships, but across the galaxy. The council watched in silence. "This will decide everything," one member whispered. "If Earth falls," another said. But the elder slowly shook his head. "No," he said. "If they reach Earth," he did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Inside human space, something unexpected happened. There was no panic, no emergency broadcasts, no desperate defense calls. Earth did not look afraid. Instead, it looked ready. Hidden stations powered on. Defense platforms rose from silence. Long-range weapons aligned toward incoming space. Systems that had never been shown before came alive. Humanity had been preparing, not just for attack, but for this exact moment. Deep inside Earth's command center, leaders stood calmly. A large screen showed the approaching Zerath fleet. One officer spoke, "They will arrive within hours." Another added, "All defensive systems are online." A younger commander asked quietly, "Do we send a warning?" The room was silent for a moment. Then the senior leader answered, "No, they had their warning." The Zerath fleet entered human space. At first, everything seemed quiet, too quiet. No patrol ships. No early defense lines. No resistance. Some Zerath commanders smiled. "They are afraid," one said. "They are hiding." Another laughed. "This will be easy." But as their fleet moved closer to Earth, the first defense activated. Without warning, space itself seemed to shift. Hidden mines, invisible to sensors, exploded across the front lines of the Zerath formation. Ships vanished instantly. Others were damaged before they could react. "Ambush," one commander shouted. "Shields up, form lines." But before they could reorganize, the second layer struck. From far beyond visible range, human rail cannons fired. Not randomly, perfectly aimed. Each shot hit key ships, command vessels, carriers, shield generators. The Zerath formation began to break. "Return fire," their leaders ordered, but their targeting systems were failing. Human jamming ships flooded the area, false signals, ghost targets. Nothing could be trusted. Then the human fleet arrived, not rushing, not chaotic. They appeared in formation, silent, dark, controlled, silent, dark, controlled. Captain Rain stood on his bridge once again. "Enemy fleet confirmed," an officer said. "Engagement range reached." Rain nodded. "Begin phase 1. Human ships move forward like a single mind. No wasted movement, no confusion. Fighters launched. Torpedoes fired. Energy weapons cut through the battlefield. The Zerath fought back hard. They still had strength. Their ships were powerful. But something was wrong. They were reacting. Humans were controlling. Above Earth, the battle became something the galaxy had never seen before. Entire lines of Zerath ships disappeared under coordinated strikes. Human fleets moved in layers, one attacking, one supporting, one disrupting. Every action connected, every move planned. A Zerath captain shouted into his command system, "They are predicting us." Another answered in panic, "No, they already know us." Then came the moment that changed everything. The Zerath launched their final weapon, a massive planet-breaking cannon carried by their largest warship, powered up. Its energy built slowly, glowing brighter and brighter. If it fired, Earth would not survive. "Target, Earth," would not survive. "Target, Earth," the Zerath commander ordered. "Fire on command." Inside human command, alarms sounded. Energy spike detected. Enemy superweapon charging. For the first time, tension rose in the room, but not fear. Focus. "Can we stop it?" one officer asked. A systems expert answered, "Yes." "How long?" 30 seconds. The leader gave the order, "Do it." Across the battlefield, one human ship broke formation. A single strike cruiser accelerated forward, moving directly toward the massive Zerath warship. Enemy guns fired at it. Shields burned. Hull damage increased, but it did not stop. Inside the ship, the crew worked without panic. Course locked. Target confirmed. Final approach. The captain spoke calmly. "Hold steady." The Zerath weapon reached full charge. "Fire." Before the command could finish, the human cruiser reached its target. At point-blank range, it released everything. Energy weapons, missiles, kinetic rounds, all focused on one exact point, the Zerath warship's core. For a brief second, everything was silent. Then, a massive explosion tore through space. The superweapon was gone. The warship broke apart, and the light of the blast faded slowly into darkness. The battlefield changed in that instant. Zerath morale collapsed. Their strongest weapon had failed. Their final hope was gone. Human fleets did not stop. They advanced. Faster now. Stronger. Unstoppable. Ships that tried to run were disabled. Ships that fought were destroyed. Ships that fought were destroyed. Ships that surrendered were ignored for later. This was not chaos. This was controlled fury. On Earth, people watched the sky. They saw distant flashes of light. They knew what was happening. But there was no panic, because for the first time, humanity was not defending. Humanity was ending the threat. Within hours, the Zerath fleet was gone. Not scattered, not pushed back. Gone. Only broken ships and drifting debris remained. In the silence that followed, one message spread across every channel in the galaxy. No words, no speech. Only one clear fact: the Zerath had attacked Earth, and humanity had answered. Completely. Back in the council chamber, no one spoke. No one argued. No one doubted anymore. They had seen it. The full power of humanity. Not wild, Not uncontrolled, but precise, cold, final. The Eldari elder closed his eyes for a moment. Then he said quietly, "It has begun." Because the galaxy now understood something they had ignored before. Humanity did not rush into war. Humanity waited. Humanity tried peace, again and again. But when that failed, when the line was crossed, humanity did not fight to send a message. Humanity fought to finish it. And now, there was only one thing left: the fall of the Zerath Dominion. After the battle above Earth, the galaxy went quiet. Not peaceful quiet, heavy quiet. The kind that comes after something powerful has happened, something no one can ignore. The Zerath Dominion was broken, not fully destroyed yet, but broken. Their greatest fleet was gone. Their strongest weapon had failed. Their confidence had turned into fear. And humanity was still moving. Across Zerath space, panic spread. Military channels were filled with confused voices. Where are the reinforcements? Why are supplies not arriving? Who is in command? No one had clear answers anymore. Their systems were damaged. Their communication lines were weak. Their leaders were divided. For the first time in their history, the Zerath Dominion was losing control. On one of their core worlds, a high-ranking commander stood inside a damaged control room. Screens flickered. Signals came and went. A young officer rushed in. "Sir, human fleets have entered Sector 9. The commander turned slowly. That sector is protected by 3 defense lines. The officer lowered his voice. "They are gone." The commander froze. "All of them." "Yes, sir." No anger came. No shouting. Just silence. Then the commander asked, "How long?" The officer answered, "Less than 1 hour." The human fleets did not slow down. After defending Earth, they changed direction. Now, they moved deeper into Zerath territory. Not in chaos. Not chasing random targets. Still controlled. Still focused. Every system they entered had one purpose: remove the Dominion's ability to continue. Captain Rain stood again on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn. The battle above Earth had damaged his ship, but it still moved. Still fought. Still followed orders. "Next target?" he asked. An officer replied, "Zerath Command Relay in Sector 12. Central Communication Hub." Rain nodded. "Take it." When human ships arrived at the relay hub, the Zerath tried to defend it, but their coordination was gone. Ships arrived late. Orders conflicted. Systems failed. The battle did not last long. Within minutes, the hub was destroyed, and with it, the last stable line of command across the Dominion. Now, the Zerath were not fighting as an empire. They were fighting as scattered pieces. Some systems tried to resist. Some tried to hide. Some tried to run. But humanity did not chase blindly. They followed their plan. System by system, target by target, the Dominion was being taken apart, carefully, completely. On many Zerath worlds, civilians watched the sky in fear. They had grown up believing their empire was unstoppable, that no one could stand against them. Now, they saw burning ships falling from orbit. They saw defense platforms destroyed. They heard silence where command voices once ruled. One young Zerath asked his parent, "Are we losing?" The parent did not answer, because for the first time, they did not know. But something unexpected began to happen. In systems where human fleets arrived, not everything was destroyed. Military bases were targeted. Weapons were removed. Warships were disabled. But cities, homes, civilian areas were left untouched. At first, the Zerath did not understand. Why are they not destroying everything? One governor asked. "They have the power," another said. "Why stop?" The answer came slowly. Humanity was not here for revenge. Humanity was here to end the threat. Nothing more, nothing less. Back in the Council, reports confirmed it. Human forces are avoiding civilian targets. They are only striking military structures. They are only striking military structures. They are offering surrender options to local systems. The chamber fell into deep silence. One member whispered, "They could destroy the entire Dominion, but they are choosing not to." The Eldari elder gave a quiet nod. "Yes," he said, "that is why they are dangerous." In the center of Zerath space, the final stronghold remained. The Dominion capital, heavily defended, still powerful, still protected by what remained of their elite forces. This was the last stand. Inside the capital, the Zerath ruler sat in a dark chamber. Gone was the confidence. Gone was the pride. Now there was only pressure. Reports surrounded him. Losses, failures, defeat. A commander entered and spoke carefully. Human fleets are approaching the capital system. The ruler closed his eyes for a moment. How many? Enough, the commander replied quietly. Outside the system, human fleets gathered, not rushing in, not attacking yet. They waited. For the first time since the war began, humanity paused. A message was sent from Earth to the Zerath capital. It was the first direct communication since Eden 7. The message was simple: surrender. This ends now. Inside the capital, the message was received. The room filled with tension. Some commanders shouted, "We fight. We do not bow." Others spoke with fear. "We cannot win. We have lost everything already." The ruler listened to both sides. Then he stood, slowly, silently. He looked at the stars beyond his world. Then he gave the order. Surrender. The word spread across the Dominion. Weapons powered down. Ships stopped moving. Defense systems went silent. The war was over. Human fleets entered the capital system, but they did not attack. They held position, watching, waiting, confirming. Captain Rain received the final update. Zerath Dominion has surrendered. He looked at the screen for a moment. Then he said, "Understood." No celebration, no cheering, just quiet acknowledgement. Across the galaxy, the Adul's Bant Naj, the unstoppable Dominion had fallen, not over years, not over long wars, but in a single controlled campaign. The council gathered one final time. No arguments, no doubts, only understanding. One member said quietly, "We were wrong about humans." Another added, "We thought they were weak." The Eldari elder spoke one last time. "No," he said, "you only saw the part they allowed you to see." Because now the truth was clear to everyone. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was patient. And when that patience ended, nothing could stand in its way. But the story was not finished yet, because the final lesson was still coming. The war was over. But the silence that followed felt heavier than the battle itself. Across the galaxy, systems slowly returned to normal. Trade routes reopened. Communication lines were repaired. Fleets stood down. But nothing felt the same anymore, because everyone remembered what they had seen. The Zerath Dominion still existed, but it was no longer an empire. Its fleets were gone. Its power was broken. Its leaders had surrendered. For the first time in their long history, they were no longer feared. On their capital world, the Zerath ruler stood before a large window, looking out at space. Human ships were still there, not attacking, not threatening, just watching. A reminder. A message without words. One of his advisors spoke carefully. "What will they do to us?" The ruler did not answer immediately. He had asked himself the same question many times. Finally he said, "They will do what we never did." The advisor looked confused. "What do you mean?" The ruler's voice was quiet. "They will stop." And he was right. Humanity did not destroy the Zerath. They did not take their worlds. They did not enslave their people. Instead, they removed their weapons. They dismantled their war fleets. They shut down their military systems. And then they stepped back. This confused many species. In the council chamber, voices rose again. "They should have ended the Dominion completely," one leader said. "They had the chance." Another agreed. "They could have removed the threat forever." But the Eldari elders spoke calmly. "They already did." The room went quiet. Because the real power of humanity was not just in destruction, it was in control. Days later, a message was sent across the entire galaxy, not just to the Council, not just to the Zerath, to everyone. It came from Earth. And for the first time since the war began, humanity spoke. The message was simple, clear, direct. We asked for peace. We were ignored. We were attacked. We asked for peace. We were ignored. We were attacked. We ended the threat. We will not begin another. No long speech. No celebration. No warning. Just truth. Across the galaxy, the message spread. On distant worlds, people stopped and listened. On space stations, workers paused their tasks. On ships traveling between stars, crews replayed the words in silence. One young alien asked, "Is that all they are going to say?" An older one replied, "That is enough," because everyone understood what it meant. Humanity did not want war. but they would finish it. In the Galactic Council, no one laughed anymore. No one doubted. No one called humans weak. Instead, there was something new: respect and fear. One council member said quietly, "We misjudged them." Another added, "We thought their kindness was weakness." The Eldari elder gave a final nod. "And now you understand," he said, "because the truth was simple. Humanity is peaceful. Humanity is peaceful. Humanity tries again and again to avoid conflict, but there is a line that, once crossed, changes everything. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. Cities were calm. People went back to their daily lives, but something inside humanity had changed. Not into anger, not into hate, but into understanding. They knew now that peace must be protected, and sometimes that requires strength. Captain Rain stood once more on the bridge of his ship. The war was over, his mission complete. A young officer asked him, "Do you think they will attack again one day?" Rain looked out at the stars. For a moment he said nothing. Then he answered, "No." The officer seemed surprised. "How can you be sure?" Rain's voice was calm. "Because now they understand." And they did. Across the galaxy, a new rule spread, not written in law, not forced by power, but remembered by everyone who had witnessed the war. Never mistake human kindness for weakness. Because they had seen what happens when that kindness is pushed too far. They had seen peaceful beings become something unstoppable, not wild, not uncontrolled, but focused, united, final. The Zerath would rebuild, other species would grow, new conflicts would come, as they always do in a galaxy full of life. But one thing would never be forgotten, not by the Council, not by the Eldari, not by any species that had watched the stars burn. The moment humanity changed, the moment they stopped asking, stopped waiting, stopped hoping, and chose to act, from that day forward, whenever tension rose between species, whenever pride grew too strong, whenever someone believed humans were soft, there was always someone who remembered and spoke quietly, "Do not push them," because the galaxy had already learned the lesson, and it was not a lesson it wanted to learn again. Humanity's fury does not come quickly, but when it does, it changes everything.